All right, everyone. Hello and welcome into another riveting discussion surrounding Minnesota Vikings football. And today's topic is something that we briefly touched on already this week. We discussed it a little bit on Monday during the day after Carolina video, and that is the injury to Patrick Peterson, the number of games he is going to miss, what this does to our pass defense going forward. And at the end of this video, I want to ask you, the audience, for your input regarding three specific questions, knowing what we know now about the Patrick Peterson injury. So, where do we currently stand? Patrick Peterson has been placed on IR. He will miss the next 3 games for the Minnesota Vikings. And if you're somebody like me who was a little bit ignorant about the 3-game IR rule prior to making this video or viewing this video, I was under the impression that it was just 3 consecutive weeks. And I was like, hey, the bye week is here. That will help alleviate some of the pain point of having a secondary without Patrick Peterson. And it turns out it's actually a 3-game IR. He is going to miss 3 games, so he will not be a participant for the Cowboys, Ravens, and I believe the Chargers. I believe that is the next 3 games once we come out of the bye week on the Vikings schedule. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, unfortunately, bye weeks do not count. They have to miss 3 consecutive games. It is what it is, but at least that will give him more time to regain his health. So initially, when he was off the field for the last game against the Carolina Panthers, there was some concern that it was serious. And then the early reports was, oh, he's just cramping. And then we were all kind of relieved, like, okay, he's not going to miss any significant time. And then the next day he gets placed on IR and we find out it's a hamstring problem. And I want to highlight the fact that it's a hamstring problem because while Patrick Peterson himself may not have this long list of injury problems throughout his career, I actually don't think he's been injured too much during his 10 years in the NFL. But the hamstring issue worries me because this is one of those injuries that can linger on and on and on. You can re-aggravate it if the rehab doesn't go well, if you push too hard, if you try to come back when you're not ready. And I think the best example that we can look at for this season is Christian McCaffrey. Now, they do play 2 entirely different positions. They are asked to do 2 entirely different roles for their teams. But the fact that Christian McCaffrey went out with a hamstring injury, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago, he had 10 days to recoup because they had the Thursday night game and then it was 10 days off. The Matt Rule, if he's a liar, I don't know, but he said that there was no setbacks for Christian McCaffrey leading into their most recent game against the Vikings. And then it turns out, boom, 3-game IR, he is gone because it's a hamstring injury. Those things linger. So that has me extremely concerned. Given Patrick Peterson's age, he's not a 22-year-old with some sort of aggressive rehab plan. I'm sure he can handle it. This isn't me talking down about Patrick Peterson's workout program or his ability to get healthy quick. I'm a little bit more concerned than I would be if this was like a 23-year-old Adrian Peterson that we were talking about. And that's probably not a fair comparison because Adrian Peterson is a freak of nature. So where does this leave us? The Vikings corner depth is now kind of a concern when you look what we have left going into the real meat grinder portion of this schedule, facing really good teams with really good quarterbacks. So we've already established Patrick Peterson is going to miss the next 3 games. There's no negotiating that. He's gone. Bashaud Breeland has not played well this year. He missed part of week 4 against the Browns with an illness. He's played good recently, but those games have been against Jared Goff, Sam Darnold. Let's see how he does against better competition, but he is one of the best outside corners we've got going into the meat grinder portion of the schedule. Cam Danceler has missed some time due to COVID protocols. That's a concern. He's also in a significant sophomore slump, and he's getting burned at critical points during games. So, the monkey paw has curled. We have all wanted Cam Danceler to be playing more over Bashaud Breeland, but now we're going to get them both in extremely healthy doses because they're going to be the starting 2 outside corners for us. You have Chris Boyd. He missed week 4 with a hamstring injury. I don't know what his prognosis or status is with that, but I haven't heard anything, so I'm guessing he's fine. You have Harrison Hand, who has missed time due to COVID protocols as well. We also have Mackenzie Alexander. No real complaints or concerns regarding him. He's fine. He's okay. And then we go to, the practice squad that has Ty Smith and Perry Nickerson. And God help us if those guys are seeing any significant playing time or taking even more than 20% of the team snaps on defense, because that signifies that we are in the middle of the train wreck when it comes to the secondary. Now, in hindsight is always 2020. But I do want to acknowledge this before I get into these 3 questions that I want to ask you, the audience, to reply to in the comments. Let me know what you think about this situation. We don't have Jeff Gladney anymore. No one could have foresaw his off the field problems, so that sucks. It's nobody's fault but his own. And then we have Mike Hughes, who was traded to the Kansas City Chiefs for basically nothing in return. And he's played not well, but he's been playing a significant portion of the Kansas City Chiefs defensive snaps. That defense is not good. He had the one interception in the first game that he played. I don't think he's done much since then. I couldn't tell you the ins and outs of his performance or his PFF grades at this moment because he has been a far distant thought since he's been removed from this roster. But now it kind of feels like maybe you wish you had him. At least just have another body that knows the system, in my mind anyway. So I just wanted to point those two things out before I get into the questions, which are as follows. So, question number one, do we regret the Minnesota Vikings and Rick Spielman trading away Mike Hughes for nothing in return? I mean, it was a 6th-round pick, I think, and I think they swapped positions in another round. I don't remember what the trade details were. Somebody can, litigate that in the comments. But how do you feel about that, knowing what we know now and in the position that we're currently in, where Patrick Peterson is going to miss 3 games, and we have a couple of corners who have had problems and concerns up until this point? Question number 2, should we trade for a cornerback before the trade deadline, which I think is November 2nd. So I don't know where you would get one. I mean, we missed the opportunity to get Devin McCourty. It feels like every time a corner comes available on the trade market, the Carolina Panthers are swooping in. They got CJ Henderson. That probably would have been a great pickup for them had they known at the time that what they needed. But, remember at the beginning of the season, we felt really good about the cornerback depth on this team. We really did. And that was even before the whole off the field nonsense with Jeff Gladney. So yeah, it sucks that it's gotten to this point. But as I've always said, even earlier in the year, the NFL season is a battle of attrition. And right now the Vikings secondary is hanging on by a thread. So question number 2, should we trade for a cornerback before the deadline right now? And then finally, in closing, to sort of bring this all back together, question number 3, do you trust Rick Spielman to make that trade? So let's say you agree, yes, I think we should trade for a cornerback. Do you want Rick Spielman doing that? Because we've seen his past couple of trades that he's made, and so far they are not working out in our favor. You have Yannick Ngakoue, which cost us draft position. I know people keep pointing to that as, it's a 4th-round pick. Drew Samia was a 4th-round pick. Whatever. You're trading an unknown commodity for a known commodity. That's the point. And the fact that he was basically a 6-week rental because they couldn't bring themselves to admit that Danielle Hunter wasn't coming back and this team wasn't good last year. So Yannick Ngakoue trade, the Chris Herndon trade, he's had 1 touchdown. Good for you. But overall, I think that was still a panic trade that shouldn't have been made, given the fact that Ben Ellerson has been playing more than I think we all thought he was gonna. And then his most recent trade, the other trade, which was Mike Hughes, which we've already discussed. So do you trust Rick Spielman to make a trade in the middle of the season for a cornerback where teams might assume that we're desperate? So those are the questions I pose to you. Let me know what your thoughts are on this subject in the comments below. That's going to do it for me. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.